Now let's talk about human resource management and our strategy implementation. This really is a critical section of our chapter as we go through. Here's a menu of the different practices that we do in human resources. Job analysis and design. You look at a job, maybe one that already exists or one that a supervisor wants to create. A supervisor comes to you and they want to create a job. So they sit there and say, well, what do you want to do? You send an HR specialist to go and interview them as you go through and sit down and look at what you think they want, take over different descriptions of it, and then sit down there and get their input and let them have input as to how they want the job designed, what's it going to do, what should be the expected outcomes as you go through, what are the top 10 duties, make certain they clearly define that. Sometimes you go well past 10 duties as you go through, what kind of goals you're looking for. That's all about job analysis and design. We'll talk more about that in more detail later on. Then you have a recruitment process to gather pool and selection, training and development, performance management. But let's go through these different options in this section over here. The job analysis, get detailed information about the job, and then address what tasks should be addressed in a particular job and the creation of a job description as you go through. Then you take the job description, you go through a recruitment process that's sitting over there, and you sit down and you collect the different applicants. Sometimes this could be a hair-raising experience, to say the least. One time I had a job of all things. It was a part-time child care assistant. It was 19 and a half hours. I received 966 applications for this teeny tiny job in the organization. It was incredible. We're in the middle of a recession. People were desperate. I had people apply. I kid you not, a lot of them had master's degrees to apply for this part-time job as a child care assistant as you go through. How do you possibly go through and look at that recruitment? You end up actually, instead of paying attention to the best qualified, what you're looking for are people that made mistakes, and you throw out 300 or 400 of them if you possibly can, just to get down to some pool to wrap your head around who's there in the process. We'll talk about that aspect of it and how difficult that can be as you go through. Your goal is to reduce that pool down to about 10 candidates you want to sit down and interview. When you have people that have master's degrees applying for a part-time job or massive experience, I ran a child care center with 55 children and that's a highly qualified person because they're going to know about an assistant's job, but will they stay as you go through? You have to weigh every aspect of it. Then you choose as you go through, identify the applicants. Once you hire them, you really should be working with the supervisor to develop a training program to learn about the job knowledge over there. And then also a longer term planning that's called development, which is different than training. Don't get them mixed up as you go through. That's about improving their ability to meet challenges of the job or what to do or jobs that don't exist yet. So train for the task for today, but also develop them to sit down and become a better employee and a better skilled person as you go through. And then you have a performance management, and it depends how you set it up. You have different generations, have different philosophy about it. Some people totally hate assessments, especially the annual one, and they get all upset and everything else, including the ones giving the assessment. And then you have other generations that like to have one every single week. And when they do well, they want to get a raise too. And so it just depends on what your organization is willing to do on performance management as you go through. Pay, structure, incentives, the benefits as you go through. By the way, the benefits can be huge as you go through. It's not uncommon in this world's economy as you go through to pay $25,000 or more for a benefit package for a full-time employee as you go through. It can be a big part of compensation, and it could also be a big draw, making certain that you advertise that out there as well. Incentives, have an annual bonus as you go through, or performance increases as you go through the process, and then look on what is your philosophy on employees? Okay, if they're humans, are they an asset or an expense? It just depends how you treat them and what your philosophy is. How much should employees participate in decision-making? Just it all top down, or do employees have input as you go through? What rights do employees have, and what's the company's responsibility to employees? These are questions that you need to ask your chief executives as you go through, the chiefs of your organization, and they're real questions to ask them, because sometimes they'll sit there and talk all this and act like all this over here in the process. So you'll see in the book, we have a thing called Porter's Cost and Differentiate Strategy. Value is created by reducing costs as you go through. So feel free to read that. That is not going to be a test question as you go through. But look on the aspect of the role behaviors and cost strategies where the companies define the skills they require and invest in training in these skill areas as you go through. You know, FedEx, for instance. FedEx actually spends more money, almost 6 times the amount of money of other package delivery companies in the industry. The result is, by the time it's all done, and by the way, how much can you train somebody to drop off a package at the door? How much can you train somebody to sit down there and drive a forklift inside their warehouses as you go through? How much can you train somebody to snap stickers on it? Well, let me tell you what happens. Their turnover rate is less than 8% on an annual basis for these type of jobs as you go through. As a matter of fact, typically it's 3 to 4% depending on the region of the country that you're in. It's incredible how much people respond to being trained, making certain they're safe and everything else, that you have a much lower turnover rate because they know that you as an employer care about the overall long-term performance and about them as an individual. Don't ever sit down and put down training that there's too much training. Think of the aspect of the long-term benefits of training with a lower turnover rate, a better safety rate as you go through, and really having a level of employee satisfaction once you go through. So to wrap up, job analysis, you get detailed information about the job, you put them into a job, create a job description, and performance and pay should be tied together if they're successfully doing the job, or if they're not successfully doing it, make certain that performance and pay are tied right to the overall assessment of what's going on. Take care.